About what or whom do you feel compassionate? Compassion literally means to co-suffer, which sounds a lot like empathy when you think about it. Different from empathy, however, though still closely related, compassion is the desire to alleviate the suffering of another. Empathy is the ability to perceive and sometimes even feel another's suffering, but where empathy feels, compassion acts. One important facet of compassion is in how it differs from the concept known as altruism. Altruism, as a concept, is a bit of a fabrication, actually, of a 19th century French philosopher Auguste Comte. He was looking to create a word that could serve as a good opposite to the word egoism, which is itself a word to describe those who only think of themselves. But the opposite of thinking only of oneself can't be about thinking of everyone but oneself, because there's actually never a time when we don't think of ourselves. We're always aware of how we fit into a situation and how we will either be benefited or harmed, even when we're doing something for someone else. And we're constantly striving to feel good. That is our permanent inner directive, feeling good. When we do good deeds, we feel good. That's a benefit. And it's one which can't be discounted. When Monsieur Comte created the concept of altruism, he was mistaken. His concept does not exist. Not that goodness doesn't exist, but I mean to say altruism, as its creator intended it and as it's defined, does not. And his word has only served to muddy the waters and make compassionate action seem even harder to accomplish, because it mistakenly gives us the impression that we're not supposed to benefit in any way, even to feel good. We are to be selfless. That's the advice. That's the standard being set with regard to serving others. That bar is not just too high. It's a fantasy. And knowing that a false ideal has been placed into our moral universe, we can let it go. Because we matter in the equation of our service to others. If we are to co-suffer, we should also have earned the right to be co-inspired, co-joyful, and co-relieved by helping one another. That is the only way compassion functions. Compassion is an experience with a personal benefit we can't separate from the whole. Good. By the philosopher's ideal, any time you take pleasure out of helping another person, you're no longer being an altruist, which, therefore, is a judgment against you feeling good. He's not really an altruist. He liked it. Let's release that. Because even though we don't realize it, that unrealistic human aspiration subtly impacts our ability to be of genuine service to the world. And whether or not you're a religious person makes no difference to whether or not you're influenced by the larger society who tells you that you should only give without wanting and serve without needing. I think there's a backlash to that. I fear it only has the ability to infect a culture with a belief that since they can't live up to these lofty ideals, they might as well grab what they can for themselves, regardless of how it might impact others. For what's the point of caring about others if we're not allowed to care about ourselves? Why? Don't we count? The fact is we do. We count very much. The sacred advice they're alluding to in their desire to accomplish selfless good in the world is the caution that to make sure what you do for your own state of goodness should never impinge upon the state of goodness of another. But as well, the actions you take to feel good can also, if not careful, follow the old aphoristic idea that weakness is merely strength in excess. We can do so much of a good thing that it becomes harmful to us. That's true for everything from potato chips to philanthropy. That's where the advice to be selfless comes from. Our fear that if we give permission to feel good, no real good will come of it. We'll just overdo it and mess it up. But that's a lie, even if a well-intentioned one. Don't buy it. Because science has now repeatedly shown us that doing good for others is extremely beneficial to ourselves. There are endless scientific studies showing the evidence of the health benefits of compassionate actions, such as reducing the risk of heart disease by boosting the positive effects of the vagus nerve. It makes us more resilient to stress and strengthens our immune systems. It increases our ability to socialize. And countries who make it a habit to help their most vulnerable are statistically proven to be the happiest. Shouldn't that matter? It would almost seem that some have concluded that God's only happy when we aren't. Does that make sense? Still, we should check our motivations. It's always important to know why we are doing something and for whom we are doing it. Because sometimes we're playing at compassion and using it as a smokescreen, even from ourselves, to support behavior that harms us. When we put others before ourselves, harm occurs. When we put ourselves before others, harm occurs. But when we make ourselves equal to others, compassion occurs. I think one of the most astonishing observations I found in my research on this topic was in the tactics shown to cultivate compassion in ourselves and others. We can actually make more compassion in the world by modeling it. Because compassionate action is a learned behavior. And research shows it's contagious. Did you know that if you tap your finger at the same time as a stranger, it increases compassionate behavior in ourselves? How does that happen? I don't know how they proved it, but it does align with the other things we've learned about engaging in group activities and how they impact our mental state. Doing things with and for others changes us in profound and positive ways. And though we can't see or taste compassion, and we definitely don't understand it, we can still use it. We can't see the wind, but we can see the leaves moving within it. We can use our observation of the leaves to conclude that there is power moving them, a force we might choose to participate in ourselves. We can take what we learn from the leaves and then build a sail for our boat. The leaves show us that the wind has physics, even if we don't always understand it. Through science, we can see that compassion, too, has physics. It has replicable outcomes and predictable opportunities for taking the best advantage of what compassion has to offer as a life practice. We may not fully understand this wind, but we can allow it to be at our back, guiding our forward movement to occur with greater ease and purpose. We can take the oars out of the water for a while and just allow the momentum of the wind to carry us where we wish to go. Be free within it. Be at ease now. Take a deep breath, and as you exhale, allow all trouble and worry to drain from you in a rush. Feel your ease increasing. Breathe into your ease and comfort. Before you is a smoothly flowing river. It does not bubble or rush. It is not held back by large boulders or rocks. In this spot, the water moves gently en masse before you. There is benevolence here. And breathe. You move with reverence toward the edge of the water. There is no fear, only purpose. You feel utterly safe. You gently sit down and remove your shoes. You place them neatly on the ground beside you. You will be returned to them shortly. And breathe. You stand and gently place your foot into the water. It feels both cold and comfortable at the same time. You are aware of the coolness of the water, but it is healing to you. You feel relief. and breathe. You walk to the center of the river. The water is moving more powerfully than you imagined, but it only makes you wish to join it, rather than stand firmly maintaining your position against the flow. You wish to be a part of the flow. It calls to you and encourages you to take relief in letting go. And breathe. Suddenly you allow your feet to be lifted from the river floor, and the water takes you. You float effortlessly, as if the water were almost entirely salt, but this is crystal clear and clean. The river breathes for you. Breathe with it now. This river is the flow of compassionate action in the universe. This river is the flow of compassionate action in the universe. It is a life force of its own. It has consciousness. It has purpose. It calls to us to enter and join the flow. It is natural to us. It feels so good to be entangled with it. It breathes now with us. We and the water are one. We have felt safe enough to close our eyes and allow the current to lift and carry us without care or concern. We somehow know that the moment we step from the water, we will be right where we need to be. Until then, we may allow this moment of bliss to continue. Breathe with the river now. Be willing to feel good. Be accepting that this is your natural state. This is the natural equilibrium you seek at all times. This is what your body and mind both strive toward. You are experiencing it now. Be here now. Be here fully now. It is time. There is work to do. Breathe for a moment longer and take in the coolness of the water that lifts and supports you. Thank the river for this journey now. Honor it and promise to return. You move toward the shore. You move by your own power, and yet you know you are in some ways being carried by it. You don't know if you have traveled yards or miles, but you are not concerned. You know you will exit the river just where you need to be. As you step toward the shore, your shoes are waiting there for you right where you left them. Though you have floated down river, you have ended up exactly where you entered it. This is a metaphor. You gently sit down and put your shoes back on. As you do, you realize that your clothes are dry, and you feel as comfortable as you ever have in your life. You stand now with your back to the river, and stepping forward, re-enter the flow of life. Namaste.